It's great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sara Kooperman, and I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education. I'm really excited to have you guys here. We've got with us today Melissa Layne. We've got Dr. Sara Ruback, and then we've also got Jeff Howard. Our wonderful Chris Purple is managing this webinar today, so I'm very excited. Chris is always very helpful. And I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education. If you guys don't know me, like, why are you on this webinar? We actually have almost 100 people registered for this webinar, which is kind of exciting. But we know that we're going to have about 30 people show up. That's usually what happens. We have a third show up, a third watch the recording, and then 20 people that I have no idea what happened to them. But we're really excited because this is pushing through plateaus. And I think this is very important now, especially since we're getting out of the pandemic. Our new clients will often lose weight and gain strength relatively easily at the beginning of a new fitness routine. But then what happens when they hit an upper limit or a plateau, they get bored. How do we keep them motivated? How do we make sure that they maintain their diet and their workout plan? So what we're going to do is how do we identify approaching plateaus and how do we help push back them? And in the pandemic, you know what our plateaus may be? We're just bored of going outside and walking our dog. We're just sitting on the couch. We're in a plateau. We need to get out of this. We're going to look at that. We have the wonderful Melissa Layne. She's a Kinesiology Department Faculty Member at the University of North Georgia. She has 30 years of experience in the fitness industry and a master's degree in exercise physiology. She's the queen of having the ability to explain technical information in an understandable format. She's a magician at this. She's author of the Water and Exercise book with Human Kinetics. She's a member of the SCW faculty. We greatly appreciate this. She created our nutrition coaching for fitness professional certification. I highly recommend it because it's important now more than ever. And then she also wrote the Nutrition, Hormones, and Metabolism Certification, and she significantly contributed to our rewrite of our Active Aging Certification. So we really appreciate Melissa joining us. I'm so happy to have Jeff Howard with us as well. Jeff is often our guest host at webinars because he's so articulate and he's very cute. He's an international presenter. He's an SCW faculty member leading our Group X cert, our Aqua Exercise cert, Yoga certification, Pilates certification. He's also an entrepreneur. He started Jeff Howard's Athletes Club, which actually fitness instructors can join this as well. And he's got a streaming channel, Jeff Howard's Fitness. He has a fitness studio in Louisville, Kentucky. He's passionate about education and inspiring others to get great. Now, we're very, very happy to have Sara Ruback with us because we can just see her name because she just finished teaching and she's going to be coming home and she'll get on her computer in just a minute, but she is here with us. She specializes in classical Pilates, and she created and directed an international education program for 14 years at Core Pilates in Manhattan, New York. She specializes in one-on-one treatment and small group classes, and she focuses on Pilates and Melt. Melt is a wonderful teacher training program, and she's got all sorts of credentials from Pilates certifications, TRX. She's got an ED, a master's in education. We're very pleased to have Dr. Sara with us. So we're going to be talking about plateaus. One of the things I want you to do is please move your mouse. You guys know how to do this. Go to the bottom of your screen. You see the green share button. Go to the chat box, which is to the left. Click on it. Hello, Paula from Cleveland, Ohio. Please type in your name and do me a favor, type in your name and just tell me where you're from. We'd love to do this. Then, oh, New Hampshire, off. I love that, Maureen. So we want to hear from you. We love the people that listen to the recordings, but we want your questions because there's reasons that you focused in on this. We've got someone from Southwest Michigan, Massachusetts, Tampa, Alabama, all over the country. So thank you guys for joining. I'm just thrilled to have you. First question, Melissa Layne. How do you identify that a client has hit a plateau?
Well, first off, because of the principle of diminishing returns, which means the better shape you're in, the harder you have to work to see results, pretty much everybody is going to hit a plateau at some point or the other. It's just a matter of when. I'm going to look for lack of energy, lack of motivation, wanting to do different things, no enthusiasm to come work out, and just basically other things taking priority.
And Jeff, you mentioned a few other points that you thought you could kind of smell out some of your participants that seem to be drifting.
Well, it's just, it's funny. Everybody started doing a different habit during the pandemic. And so we're trying to really reestablish it to the point I was telling the panel before this. I actually went to Cancun and came back and I had got COVID. So I had to quarantine for 10 days and I had to choose to either close down my studio or have a sub come in and teach. I chose the sub to come in and teach because I had to keep that habit going. The problem is this: if I don't show up, they're not going to show up. So we have to make sure that we keep that consistency there for the hardcore. Now, the other thing is we have to look at it a little bit differently. We have to become a little bit more personalized. Sending a text out, I miss you, where have you been? And you'll be amazed with the response you get. But just checking in with people, I think you'll be surprised how much that means to them, and they want to be accountable. There's something that happened in the pandemic that they lost this accountability. And you're right, the plateau thing has happened and they're not reaching the goals they had, or it's too fatiguing for them mentally with everything else of the stress of life right now, I think.
And I agree that this pandemic has affected people. I think we got used to, going outside, walking our dog, the quiet of the backyard, working alone in our den, or I'm saying alone because my kids were in college, although 2 of them ended up coming home. Actually, I had all 4 home at once. That was relaxing. Anyway, but we get into this habit and we need to break the habit. Dr. Sara, welcome. It's great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no, we appreciate you coming on. We asked her to come on and she said, well, I have a commitment, blah, blah, blah. We said, no, we'll wait for you. So we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. So how do you identify when a person has hit a plateau?
You know what I find actually? I find my clients start to apologize a lot. They feel bad about where they're at in their practice. And like my other colleagues here have talked about, start to make excuses, but it just seems like they're not living up to maybe a standard that they've set for themselves. So I think that it is sort of connected with everything we've been discussing about the pandemic and overall stress and burnout. But it is something I've noticed in my clients that they just start to apologize. And that's the last thing you kind of want them to do when you're trying to help them be their healthiest, strongest version of themselves.
Yes, because that even further brings them down. What steps, and I'm going to stay with you, Dr. Sara, what steps do you take to push through a weight loss or a strength gain plateau? Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to gain. I'm not just saying gain weight, but gain muscle. We all have our different focuses, but how do you push them through this? What techniques do you use?
Well, first, I like to check in a lot with them just to understand their expectations and that should word, what they should be doing. And if it is centered more around a number or, but in terms of weight on a scale or pounds to lift, rather than going there, I try to ask them, how do they feel when they're doing this? And, also let them know that this is normal, that there's this accelerated period of where change happens. And then your body is also finding its stasis. We're not meant to, well, this evening I did, but you're not meant to floor your car at 85 miles an hour all the time. Your body finds its own rhythm, and it's kind of noticing and honoring in the body that, hey, maybe the number isn't what I wanted it to be, but objectively, if I go inside and think about it, do I feel better? And so I try to just divert them from some of those real quantifiable goals and bring them to their own relationship with their body.
Oh, that's very great. Jeff, I see you nodding. What are some of the things, what steps do you take to push people through these plateaus?
Great question. For me, I've been asked a lot since we've been back for challenges, whether it be a 30-day challenge or a 60-day challenge. They want something that I think that they feel that they can start, get in the middle of, and then finish. But it's our jobs. It's so funny. Whenever we start these things, we always start really strong at the very beginning. But even as teachers, we lose our momentum. And then we've got to finish off with a really strong finish as well. So things like that, 30-day challenges, 60-day challenges, like I was saying, doing special things at your clubs or your classes that make them want to come in. What would that be? Wearing pink on Saturday was a huge thing for us here in Louisville because of breast cancer awareness. Making them feel like a community and motivating them to come in. We're going to be doing things with a pet shelter because they all have animals. So it's kind of taking it and twisting it on its ear a little bit to make it not be like you just said at the very beginning about walking your dogs and doing mundane things that were maybe exciting at first that have become mundane. Remember, what we're having them do is work. Mm-hmm. And I think that they don't want to do that as much as they used to. So our job is to spin it so that they remember that they're having fun along the way. And it's just different ways of doing it, whether it be different events or challenges. But I think Melissa touched on something previous about we have to check in with them with what's going on stress-wise and all that good stuff.
Melissa, can you elaborate on that?
I think we don't place enough emphasis in the United States on sleep and stress. We are the most overworked country and we're dying at the earliest age because stress is getting us. So check in with your people like Jeff and Sarah have both talked about and see how they feel, but then can you help them with some techniques about how to sleep better? Maybe journaling or anything to get their melatonin levels naturally up. So start looking at the roles that hormones play. Cortisol from being up all night, chronic cortisol levels, testosterone and growth hormone that aren't high enough because they aren't sleeping because you make testosterone and growth hormone when you sleep. And then things when we're stress eaters and if we're eating sweets, up goes the insulin levels. And if the insulin levels go up, your fat burning goes down. Insulin is the #1 hormone that determines whether you are going to burn fat or not. So check in on things like that play a role in the hormones. And if you have fun with Jeff, your stress levels should go down too.
That's the #1 thing that helps me personally with stress levels is making sure I get my exercise every single day. And I know we're supposed to take a day off, active rest. It's just, I got to get outside. I got to do something. I've got to breathe. But I like your focus, Jeff, on all the challenges. I think that breeds that element of fun and that community that we've been missing for the past 19 months. Okay. So I think I love us talking about the stress levels and the lack of sleep and the overwork. And I think that America is getting a little bit better by incorporating more hybrid work. What I have seen with plateauing is I see this from more of a entrepreneur, from a leadership standpoint with my staff, in that we get kind of complacent in what we're doing. We get complacent. And when you get complacent and you get bored, you get less productive, whether it's the productive focused on yourself, meaning I want to get better, I want to get stronger, I want to stay healthier and flexible, or I want to stay productive in my job. So I find with my staff, if something new comes in, it's very rewarding. We've just recently had our cinematographer actually have to stay home with his family because his wife went back to work, so he couldn't work for us. And it's like, oh my gosh, the other people on the staff are filling in and learning how to do these wonderful moving graphics. And it's fantastic. And other people are picking up different roles. And there's enthusiasm there. So it helps you manage your business. It helps you manage yourself, changing things up. And Dr. Sara, you brought that up. So I hope you don't mind me calling you Dr. Sara.
Oh, that's okay. I like it. It's relatively new. It happened last year. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's so fun. That's so fun. All are there any steps you take to prevent a plateau from occurring? What are some of the things you might recommend?
Well, this is where I really love the MELT method. And in my journey with classical Pilates, and of course I love classical Pilates as well, it was introduced to me, I work in New York City. I met Sue, she's the creator of the MELT method, and just using both. I mean, MELT is really the method by which it stimulates your rest and repair regulators, your parasympathetic nervous system. So for issues with sleep or stress, I started to incorporate that into the beginning and the end of Pilates sessions. I felt at the beginning it helped with some held stuck stress, like when you're in Pilates curl or whatnot. So it's sort of like what you were saying, Sarah, when I myself found something new that made me excited, that filtered into the clients. So if they're bored, I've got to really turn that mirror on me and say, what am I doing that may be boring? And then just look to explore and see where we can both be learning.
Well, I think what's happened, at least what happens to me personally, is I have taught just about every type of program you can teach, basically because I'm old and I'm bored. Not that I'm boring, but that I'm bored. It's like, you start with low impact. Then I went and did aqua. Then I used to do, oh my goodness, this is humiliating, Chicago jazzed funk. You remember that? I mean, I taught step. I did double step, single step, around the world step. I don't know, step. It was, if you teach something different, it just broadens your horizon. It wakes you up, and you're absolutely right. I think it's contagious. It's contagious with our students. Melissa, are there other things you do to prevent plateauing?
I would have to agree with Dr. Sara. It's getting the variation in there, periodizing their workouts, introducing circuit training in a fun way, like a recess class that Jeff does. But we found out how good high intensity or high volume interval training was for us. And we decided we wanted to do it every day. Let's open some boutiques that have us doing high volume intensity or interval training every day. And we've forgotten about how that stresses our sympathetic nervous system. And if you are doing high volume interval training on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you have got to go parasympathetic, and you've got to do Pilates and yoga and meditation on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and have your people journal that they are taking an active rest, that Sunday becomes a hike or a walking of the dog or something like that. And like both Sarah and Jeff mentioned earlier, is getting your mind off the numbers and thinking why we exercise for the big picture of it.
And we got a question. I'm interested to hear about how medications like antidepressants might affect hormones and cortisol levels. And Melissa, you're up again, babe.
I am not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacist, and it depends on what medication you're taking. Is this medication making you sleep? Is it making you sleep longer, but not in deep sleep? Or is it making you, there's too many different medications. There's too many answers to that. And every medication affects somebody a different way, just like every nutritional plan and every workout affects somebody a different way. So that would be more for the lines of a holistic doctor who maybe not wants to go the pharmaceutical route and can answer the questions about how the hormones are affected without having a hand in the back pocket.
Jeff?
Well, I wanted to add to that too, that, during the pandemic, so many of my claimants went on anti-anxiety and all these other medications. And then word got out that they were losing weight on it or whatever. And then more people would try to get on this medication. And I found these people like trying to get the quick fix, which I'm really glad that doctors really kind of started regulating that. And when they came back to us, though, we had to remember that these people have started medications for anxiety or for stress and whatever that was. And we had to look at them differently as well, but also explain to them that the metabolism changes differently with these different things that are happening in their bodies. But I agree with Melissa completely that they need to take ownership of it and know what the side effects are. I don't know, Dr. Sara, do you know more about that?
From an adolescent point of view, I work with a lot of adolescents who are at least dually diagnosed. I think it's a little hard to apply to this population at times because these young ladies have, you know, they're adolescents. They seem, all of them have gained a lot of weight when they're on their various medications for bipolar disorder, you know, anti-anxiety, but their diet habits are not, you know, they're not like this community and as aware, but I do think generally things can slow down and there may be more of an apathy to move, or just they've reported to me just feeling kind of fuzzy and not as, you know, sharp. So perhaps it could contribute to not feeling great or gaining weight. I've seen it with that population, but it's a pretty specific sect. Mm-hmm.
And there's been some, Jeff, I'll just go 1 sec, because I'm very into this. Unfortunately, antidepressants, like Melissa said, affect people so differently. And you can get an adolescent, you can get a person in their 20s, early 20s, and they put them on antidepressant, they actually make them even more depressed. And you see those warnings on television, but I've heard this over and over, and having 4 kids that are in their 20s, you know, or actually Sam just became 30. But yeah, I have a 30-year-old. I'm going to erase this recording immediately. But it has the exact opposite effect. And you've got to be very cautious with whatever recommendations you have people on. And Jeffrey, I agree with you. Sometimes it does cause that weight loss and people love it and get addicted to that. What were you going to say?
I want to say also that, you know, it's funny, I don't know about everybody on this panel, but a lot of my clients have really gone to edibles and different things like that, which I think tend to make them also feel a little complacent, and they don't want to show up and do things because they feel they have so much stress. And I don't know what happened during the pandemic that this became this new norm. And I'd be interesting to see what other members are telling them, because my members feel very freely to tell me about it, but I'm also knowing that they're not showing up as frequently. And I think it could be a direct correlation. If you're self-medicating yourself, sometimes it's because there's something else going on there. And that's something to address maybe as well. I know that kind of goes in a whole different realm, but it's interesting to me that I don't know when it became such this normal thing, but it's a lot in Louisville.
Yeah, and it's all related now. It's all related. Like Kimberly Spring was on a webinar just on Tuesday talking about life coaching, you know, and you get a little nervous because these people often don't go to doctors, okay? They're in our fitness class. They love us. What we eat, they eat. What we wear, they wear. And what we do, they want to do. And whatever we tell them, they're going to say, well, if Sara does it, I'm going to do it. Or Jeff looks like that, I'm going to exercise and eat like that. And we have to personalize it because we don't want to overstep our bounds. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I get a little bit nervous. I don't want to overstep my bounds, but we become a life coach, and it's very acceptable. And you can, the same way you can notice that people are experiencing plateaus, you can notice that people are having psychological or emotional, mental challenges that they need to see an expert, and we can recommend that. And then Melissa said, oh, great. Melissa's going to connect with Michelle, who says that she'd like to learn more about this topic in general. And she knows that birth control pills also affect hormones a lot and probably weight. Dr. Sara, do you have anything to share with us about that?
Not so much about the birth control aspect of it. I'm more of a doctor, like psychology. So that's kind of where my expertise will be. Again, it's just sort of tangential stories, you know, that I've observed in the population I've been working with, but I can't medically really speak to it.
And what is a novel stimulus and how can it benefit our clients? That I'll let up for grabs.
That's probably all Sara, because it's all about the brain.
Well, you know, yeah, I mean, the novel stimulus, it's kind of just what it sounds like. It's just sort of, I mean, I like to think of it as like the bright, shiny object that you know, it captures your attention for a moment. It can really help elevate you and you get quite excited about it. But then in terms of just sustaining, you know, it's novel. So it's not something that you can really last over time. So as we talk about plateaus, sometimes I see people who are constantly in search of the novel stimulus. And And that's not exactly what we provide. We provide some continuity, habits, healthy routines. So the novel stimulus, as it relates to routine, is an interesting relationship to figure out.
Okay, that's, oh, Jeff, go ahead, please.
I think it's interesting because we all have clients that we always see them going to the latest trend, or they're going to the newest teacher or the new buzz. And I'm a firm believer, though, if you're good at what you're doing, they will come back to you because you are their family type thing. Don't ever be threatened by that, because those people are always going to be searching and trying something new. And there's nothing wrong with looking at a new trend and seeing, can I adapt it, or is there science behind it, and can I make that work in my format that I'm teaching or what I'm doing? Because a lot of times these trends or things that they fly towards, there's a lot of research done behind it. So there's nothing wrong with looking at it and trying to adapt it to what might be happening in your own facility, whatever that might be. There's no reason that let's be honest with you, as teachers, you're all a shining star. Everybody in this panel is a shining star. I can feel it from here. And we're already attracting those people to us. How do you keep that shine going? That's up to us. And we've always said this with conventions. It's funny. When we're doing a fitness convention, nobody understands it except the people in that room, because we are our own weird person that we see something different and we get so excited for a week. Something different, hands going behind your back for a jumping jack. And we're like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. I'm so happy. Like everybody in the panel has said, when we get excited about it, then we translate it to our clients and they feed off it and you become that bright star again. So it's up to us to continuing education, continuing finding out what's going on in the industry, adapting. Don't ever be threatened by somebody going to, oh, this is a new trend or a new teacher. Find out what that teacher is about. What are they doing that's so special? Rather than be afraid of it, become a friend of it. Find out what it's about and trends and whatever there is going in your facility. Don't ever be afraid of that. You can be the star in the novel. You can be that shining thing, I believe.
And you can be the novel. You know, you can be the novel stimulus. You can be at the same time at 5:30 every, Tuesday and Thursday. It's your class. Take it upon yourself to talk to your group fitness manager or talk to the personal training director and say, I want to teach a small, group program on Pilates. And I took this new melt program at Mania and I want to teach it. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to suck. Your first couple classes, you're going to suck, and you just need to get over it, have fun with it, laugh at yourself, and give it a chance, because it's important for us to relive and reinvent ourselves, I think. How physiologically does it help us, Melissa?
Well, when you introduce, I can't believe that this is not Dr. Sara doing this, but when you introduce a novel stimulus, it actually causes a certain number of neurons in your amygdala to fire. And as somebody gets more and more used to that stimulus, it fires less neurons in your amygdala. So you lose that excitement or that sympathetic, oh, I'm trying something new. They use it a lot for, like, let's say you have somebody who's extremely terrified of big spiders. Then they'll give you a small spider and let you look at pictures of it. And over time, introducing this different stimulus will cause a different number of neurons to fire in your brain so that it changes how you look at your stimulus. But your stimulus is probably going to be I don't want to say is going to be similar in all the relevant features of your original one. So like if you want somebody, let's take an example in fitness. If you want somebody to go from an interval of 50 seconds of work and 10 seconds of rest, and you say, okay, I now want you to do a true Tabata, 20 seconds as hard as you can and 10 seconds of rest. Then you would introduce to them something like fartlek training, where they can go as hard as they can, as long as they want. And then you've proved to them you can reach that as high as possible. So you keep your stimulus relevant, but new.
Dr. Sara, how'd she do?
Phenomenal. That's great. I was just thinking it's like so nice to talk about the brain when not related to trauma all the time. So that was an excellent job. Perfect explanation.
I was thinking about married life. Like, how do we make that still exciting and fresh all the time? Like, literally, my brain's like this. Wait a minute, hold
I
on.
think it's before 8 o'clock, Jeff. Stop it.
I think it has to do with Tabata, but we're not going to go into it in this crowd, okay? Oh my goodness, deteriorating. All right, we did have a question. Dawn from her iPhone wants to know if we're offering the MELT certification. Dr. Sara, I don't think we're offering the MELT certification, but we're offering classes, the MELT programming at Manias, and MELT does offer live streaming, if I'm correct. Chris Purple, would you do us a favor? Would you please put in a link to the MELT website? That would be really great. Thank you. And somebody's typing in numbers, and that's probably me. Oh my goodness. I have no idea what I'm doing here. There. I'm embarrassed to say, I'm in Colorado. You can see I don't have my normal backdrop, and I've got 3 screens going, and I feel like I'm this computer scientist, and I don't know. What is it? My novel stimulus is overstimulated. Are there any other outside factors that you address with your clients to break through or prevent the plateau? And Melissa, I'm going to ask you about this because, you know, we had talked when you were creating the nutrition coaching certification. Of course, I'm this worry wart that like, we're not licensed dietitians, we're not registered dietitian, but I cannot tell you, every single one of my clients asked me, you know, what should I eat? Should I eat carbs? Should I should I be a vegan? Should I only eat fish? You know, whatever. With the gummies never come up in conversation because I teach aqua. But what do you think about outside factors?
Absolutely, without a doubt. We need to check, like we said earlier, nutrition, and you can check on their nutrition without being a registered dietitian. And I think you hit one of the biggest problems right on the head is America, they don't know what carbs are. America does not know that fruits and vegetables are carbs. So either they're telling us they're not eating carbs, and I say, so you're not eating vegetables. And sometimes I get, yes, I'm eating vegetables. Okay, then you're eating carbs. But if they're not eating vegetables, they don't understand that there's a B vitamin, B3, that's in your leafy greens, and it makes a coenzyme called NADH. And NADH is what creates ATP when you burn fat oxidatively. So eat your vegetables. So you can be a coach in nutrition and not be a registered dietitian. You just can't tell them for breakfast oatmeal, a banana, and a peanut butter sandwich, because if they're allergic to peanut butter and they die, you're going to be sued and you're going to lose. But I would also, there's other principles of fitness. There's a relatively new principle of fitness called overreaching. I'm sorry. And overreaching is where you literally push your people a little too hard for a short period of time, and their performance is going to suffer shortly, and then they'll come back stronger than before. So if you just look at some of the principles of fitness, you can figure out how to change things up. Journal, log, get them into a Pilates class of some sort. See what they need to keep them in your classes, in your gym, in your program, whatever.
And Dr. Sara, what do you think about other, outside factors that you address with your clients to break through these plateaus?
Well, often I'll ask them, what are the things that they've done previously? Because I try to figure out why they've stopped doing them or why they've continued doing them. So if those things that they've stopped, like you jogged my memory about it when you're talking about step everywhere, step. If they stop doing that and no longer, I can't do this, this is not something I want to do, I like to dive into that can't, because that might unlock something, and working with that client, maybe there's aspects of that modality that we could put into what we're working on together, because your world gets real narrow once you start saying you can't do something. And if you had a bad experience running 10 years ago and you're doing things now, you may actually feel a lot better, even though you're biologically older. So I try to do a little fact finding about what is their, breadth of what they're doing, and see if I can help, change their mind about certain things or work with them.
And that makes me think about the challenges. Jeff, I'm going to ask you about the challenges, a different variety and what things have been effective for you. But I have spoken to a lot of trainers and through some of the webinars, and they talk about getting to know their clients. Like, what is your goal? Why are you coming to see me? Well, you know what? In March, my granddaughter is getting married, and they have a goal. So it's something outside of themselves. Or, you know what I want to do? I want to go and climb Machu Picchu before it closes. I want to hike the Grand Canyon, and I will do it one day. But I'll probably be 109, but I'll have it on FaceTime and put it in a webinar. But I think these kind of outside influences, real life things matter, because I always say fitness doesn't have to be a lifestyle. Just fit it into your life. Find out what's going on in their life, and it'll help fit it in. Jeffrey, what are some of the challenges or the goals that we set, or the way you integrate, and get to know your clients to pull the best out of them?
That's a great question. And it's very simple. I mean, my 30-day challenge, I was going to do a 30-day, and then I had done a 3-month prior, and I found the 3-month was just too long. People just couldn't sustain it. No matter how I would motivate them, it was just too much. And a lot of it is just giving them a handout that they have to check off certain points for what they've done during that day, whether it be drinking water. And it's basic, simple things, making time for working out, reading something. It was basically a checkout list that they would have to do. And then they would get a reward at the end of the month if they did it or not. But you guys, we've got to remember, we're at this great time right now. And to find out what your clients want is simpler than you think. If you all don't take at the beginning of the year a piece of paper and write down 3 fitness challenges or 3 challenges and hand it out to everybody in your class or who you come in contact with, all you do is write up 2022 fitness challenges or goals, fitness goals. Have them write down 3 goals. I always have them I take a picture of them with my phone so that they own their goals. And then I take the pieces of paper away from them. But guess what I've just found out? What they want, what goals they want. And I can then help them hopefully reach those goals. And you're going to be very surprised by what you find. It's never going to be, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to wear an 8. It's everything that Sara just said, and that Melissa said, and that Dr. Sara said. It's things about being more consistent, lifting a heavier weight, doing a marathon, all this neat stuff you're going to find out. And then I take the pieces of paper and I bring them back out. In about 6 weeks, I bring it back out just to see, let them know if they've met their goals or if we've on our journey with it. But it just gives you data. But you're going to get stuff like this as well. I want to feel good about myself when I look in a mirror. Mm-hmm. If they can identify and tell you something that deeply, they're already your tribe. They're already letting you know they're not happy with something. Okay? So for me, that's how I find out what's going on with people. It's just, I let them go about it going in a fitness way. What would you want to be? Fun Jeff. But then you get this information and data that you can then gear your stuff accordingly towards. So at the beginning of the year, you guys, go hit at the beginning of the year if you haven't yet.
And what I like about what you're doing is the class also becomes, we always talk about community. The class becomes a community. They've talked to each other. Why are you here? What's your number one goal? Okay, this is my number one goal. My number one goal is, Melissa, I want to lose the belly fat. And then, what do you mean sleep and stress? I can't do that. And then what is your biggest fear? So I always think, like, what are the highs and lows? Trisha Murphy-Madden did a wonderful keynote at Midwest Mania. She's going to be doing it in Dallas. And she talked about the highs and lows and the bet you didn't knows, which means, what was the best part of the pandemic? What was the worst part of the pandemic? And what did you learn from it? And we can integrate that into our classes. And they might stare at you like, it's 5:30 and I'm here to exercise. I'm not spending 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes. I want to know. I want you to find somebody in this room that's going to keep coming back to this class and tell them blah, blah, blah. But I do like Jeffrey writing it down. And Melissa talked about journaling. And Dr. Sara, do you ever work with clients where that the writing things down and then the reviewing it later tends to help?
Definitely. Absolutely. Those goals. I think it's just a win. You know, we lose track of goals that we set and we get, you know, kind of wrapped up in our day to day. And then when you look back, you know, 3 months, 6 months in, it's like, oh, wow, I really have accomplished something that I set out to do. And that builds so much more confidence and pushes people past their plateaus because they, you know, it's proof that that it's working for them.
And
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in if they write it down, they know what they want. Like if they don't, if we all think, okay, I'm going to write it down tomorrow, I'm going to think about it tomorrow. If you write it down, you've thought about something that you want to meet. That's something that's honest, that's on paper. Like you can't go back from that. Even if you don't mean it or match that goal, it's something that's obtainable. I'm always a firm believer, Melissa, if we're dating, write down what you want in a person. Because if you don't write it down, you don't know. You've got to write down everything about it. Are you dating?
We're dating? No.
Are you? Are we? Yeah.
But I want everybody, I mean, this sounds kind of corny and I'm sorry to do it. I want everybody who's on this webinar, you know, I'm not just talking about the 4 of us because we all know I want to lose the belly fat. But I want everybody on this call. What is one goal you would hope to achieve in the next 30 days? Next 30 days. One goal. But I'm not just going to do the belly fat. I'm gonna do a Melissa thing, and I'm gonna really try to sleep through the night. God knows how that's going. But we're gonna try to do better sleep. I love this. Dawn wrote down better sleep. Make $100 an hour. That's what Jeff Howard wrote down. Melissa, fix my hip mobility. Come on, everybody, write it down. We want to see it. Sawi says, lose my beer belly and sleep well. Sawi, you and I are staying in touch. Sara said, wake up 15 minutes earlier, go to bed 15 minutes earlier. That sounds cool. That sounds very cool. Anybody else? Come on, guys. Chris Purple, write it down. All right, guys, I want to show you something. This has been really interesting. Sleep the full night without waking up. Yeah, Nanette, you and I are going to keep trying to do that. And then honestly need to lose fat pounds, also sleep better. Do you guys read this? We got to sleep, man. Okay, and Dr. Sara, what's one of the best things we can do to help us sleep better?
I mean, I hate to tell you, it's melt. Not to
all right,
plug, but it really does impact your sleep big time.
And because please elaborate.
Well, melt taps in again to that parasympathetic rest and restore reflex. So in your waking hours, you're doing that through the method of melt. So that if you do wake up in the middle of the night multiple times, you're interrupting your body's regenerative process. So melt, you know, enacts that in waking hours. It's very relaxing. And again, it's like a type A person who has a hard time meditating, which is also great. Melt kind of fits that box a bit. You're moving. It's great.
Okay. Ooh, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to show you guys a quick little video. And you know, I keep showing all these wonderful videos that we have from Dallas Mania, but I'm going to show you what's going on with our Health and Fitness Business Summit. I love that. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Dr. Sara. Fabulous. I hope to see you all at Dallas Mania, Boston Mania. And we just finished our schedule for DC Mania 2022 in February. Oh my goodness. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. Thank
Bye,
you, Chris.
guys.
Bye now.
In line.